Captain Sarah Chen stood in the command center of the UES Prometheus, watching the stars through the massive viewing window. The ship hummed quietly around her, its advanced systems running perfectly as always. At 2.5 kilometers long, the Prometheus was humanity's pride and joy. But to Sarah, it felt like home. "Captain, we have an incoming transmission," said Lieutenant Torres from the communication station. "It's from something called the Galactic Council." Sarah raised an eyebrow. The Galactic Council had never contacted Earth directly before. Humanity had been aware of other alien species for decades, but they had chosen to observe quietly rather than announce themselves. It seemed that time was over. "Put it on the main screen," Sarah ordered. The image that appeared showed a tall, blue-skinned alien with 4 arms and large black eyes. The creature wore elaborate robes decorated with symbols that probably meant something important in galactic politics. "Greetings, inhabitants of the Sol system," the alien said in a bored tone. "I am Council Speaker Vexthon of the Galactic Council. Your species has been detected using basic space travel technology. As is standard procedure, you are invited to send a single representative shuttle to Nexus Station for preliminary trade negotiations." The alien paused and looked at some notes. "Please note that this is a minor hearing for primitive species. Send only one small civilian transport vessel. Any attempt to bring military ships will be seen as hostile. The coordinates are attached to this message. You have 30 standard days to comply." The transmission ended abruptly, leaving the command crew staring at the blank screen. "Well, that was rude," muttered Torres. Sarah smiled grimly. "Primitive species? Single shuttle?" She turned to her communications officer. "Torres, get me Admiral Morrison on a secure channel. Priority 1. Within minutes, Admiral Morrison's weathered face appeared on the screen. He was calling from Earth's military headquarters, located deep beneath the Swiss mountains. "I saw the transmission, Sarah," Morrison said without preamble. "What's your assessment?" "They clearly have no idea what we're capable of, Admiral. They think we're some backwater species that just learned how to build rockets." The tone was condescending at best. Morrison nodded slowly. "The Council has ruled this galaxy for thousands of years. They probably see dozens of new species every year. Most of them really are primitive by their standards. But we're not," Sarah pointed out. "No, we're not." Morrison leaned back in his chair. "Sarah, I want you to take the Prometheus to this Nexus station. Fulfill their request exactly as stated." Sarah blinked in surprise. "Sir, they asked for a shuttle, not a dreadnought battleship. They asked for a representative vessel from our species. The Prometheus will represent us very well." Morrison's eyes gleamed with something that might have been amusement. "Besides, technically, the Prometheus does have shuttle capabilities. It can carry passengers and cargo, can't it?" "Yes, sir, but no buts, Captain. It's time the galaxy learned that humanity isn't some primitive species crawling out of caves. We've been watching them for 50 years. We know their technology, their politics, their military capabilities. They know nothing about us," Sarah understood. Humanity had learned about the galaxy through careful observation and occasional contact with traders who didn't ask too many questions. Human ships had been disguised as cargo vessels or civilian transports during these encounters. The aliens had no idea that humanity possessed advanced technology that matched or exceeded their own. "What about Ambassador Vasquez?" Sarah asked. "She's supposed to handle the diplomatic side. Elena will meet you at Nexus Station. She'll take a proper shuttle from the Prometheus just as originally planned. Let her handle the talking while you handle the presentation." "Understood, Admiral." "What are my rules of engagement?" Morrison's expression grew serious. "Defend yourself if attacked, but use minimum necessary force. We want to make an impression, not start a war. Remember, Sarah, this isn't about showing off. This is about making sure humanity gets the respect we deserve in future negotiations." "Yes, sir." After the call ended, Sarah turned to address her crew. The command center of the Prometheus was filled with humanity's best and brightest. These men and women had trained for years to operate the most advanced warship humanity had ever built. "All right, people, listen up," Sarah announced. "We're going to make first official contact with the Galactic Council. They think we're primitive, so we're going to educate them." Commander Jackson, her second-in-command, stepped forward. "Captain, what should we expect?" "Our intelligence suggests some of their species are pretty aggressive." "Unknown," Sarah admitted. "But the Prometheus is ready for anything they might throw at us. Our shields can handle anything in their known arsenal, and our weapons. Well, let's hope we don't need to demonstrate our weapons." The ship's chief engineer, a gruff man named Peterson, spoke up from his station.
All systems are running at peak efficiency, Captain.
We've got full power to shields, weapons, and engines. If they want to test us, we're ready. Sarah nodded. The Prometheus represented 200 years of human engineering evolution. After first contact with hostile aliens had nearly destroyed Earth decades ago, humanity had dedicated itself to never being caught unprepared again. The ship incorporated the best of human innovation combined with carefully studied alien technology. Navigation, set course for Nexus Station. Engineering, prepare for jump to hyperspace. Communications, send a message to Admiral Morrison confirming our departure. As the crew prepared for departure, Sarah reflected on what they were about to do. For decades, humanity had remained hidden, watching and learning. They had seen the galaxy's politics, its wars, its prejudices against lesser species. Now they would reveal themselves, but on their own terms. The Prometheus was more than just a warship. It was a statement. Every system had been designed not just for effectiveness, but to demonstrate human capabilities. The aliens would expect primitive technology, basic weapons, simple defenses. Instead, they would see engineering that would make their best scientists weep with envy. Captain, all stations report ready for hyperspace jump, announced the navigation officer. Take us out, navigator. Time to show the galaxy what humanity can do. The stars outside the viewing window stretched into lines of light as the Prometheus entered hyperspace. Behind them, Earth continued its quiet preparations for whatever would come next. Ahead of them, Nexus Station waited, completely unaware that their routine meeting with a primitive species was about to become the most important day in galactic history. In her private quarters later, Sarah reviewed the files on various alien species they might encounter. Most were peaceful traders and diplomats, but some had reputations for aggression toward species they considered inferior. The Crack's hegemony in particular was known for testing new species with military displays. Sarah smiled. If they wanted to test humanity's resolve, the Prometheus would be happy to provide a demonstration. But something told her that after tomorrow, the galaxy would never look at humanity the same way again. The journey to Nexus Station would take 3 days. 3 days for the galaxy to prepare for a small shuttle from a primitive species. 3 days before they learned that humanity had been watching, learning, and preparing for this moment for decades. 3 days before everything changed. Station Commander Thrixaval had seen many things during his 40 years of service at Nexus Station. The massive space station served as the galaxy's primary diplomatic hub, welcoming hundreds of species for trade negotiations, territorial disputes, and first contact procedures. Nothing surprised him anymore. That changed when his sensors officer, a nervous Quellan named Ziptar, suddenly started making alarmed clicking sounds. "Commander, we have a hyperspace emergence detected," Ziptar announced, his voice shaking. It's much larger than expected." Thrixaval didn't look up from his morning reports. Another day. Another primitive species arriving in whatever cobbled-together ship they could manage. "Size and classification?" "Sir, the sensors are showing. This can't be right." Ziptar's 6 eyes were all focused on his displays. "The computer is classifying it as a dreadnought battleship. Length 2.5 kilometers. But that's impossible. The humans were supposed to send a shuttle." Now Thrixaval looked up. "Run a diagnostic on the sensors. Obviously there's a malfunction. I've run 3 diagnostics, sir. All systems are functioning normally." Ziptar's voice rose to a higher pitch. "Commander, the energy readings from this ship are off our measurement scale. The computer can't even calculate its firepower." Thrixaval moved quickly to the sensor station. What he saw on the screen made his blue blood run cold. The ship emerging from hyperspace was enormous, bristling with weapon arrays that his experienced eye recognized as far beyond anything in the current galactic standard. The hull was a dark metallic color that seemed to absorb light, and the energy signatures coming from it suggested technology that shouldn't exist. "Red alert," Thrixaval shouted. "All defensive systems online. Contact the fleet." Across Nexus Station, alarms began wailing. In the diplomatic quarters, ambassadors from dozens of species looked up in confusion. Emergency broadcasts went out to every military command in the sector. Admiral Corkston of the Zephyrian Navy was enjoying his breakfast when the urgent message reached him. His 3 dreadnoughts, The pride of the Zephyrian fleet were stationed near Nexus Station as a show of force and protection. When he saw the sensor readings, he nearly choked on his meal. Impossible, he muttered, studying the data. His ships, each 800 meters long and armed with the most advanced weapons the Zephyrians could build, suddenly seemed like toys compared to this human vessel. "Admiral, the human ship has just sent a standard diplomatic identification signal," reported his communications officer. "They're requesting permission to dock for scheduled negotiations." "Scheduled negotiations?" Corkston stared at the message. "They're treating this like a routine visit?" On the UES Prometheus, Captain Sarah Chen watched the chaos her arrival was causing with grim satisfaction. Every screen in the command center showed the frantic activity around Nexus Station. Ships were powering weapons, raising shields, and sending desperate messages to their home fleets. "Captain, we're receiving 17 different hails," reported Lieutenant Torres. "Most of them are demanding we identify ourselves and state our intentions. A few are asking us to please not destroy the station. Send standard diplomatic responses to all of them," Sarah ordered calmly. "Inform them that we're here for the scheduled trade negotiations as requested by the Galactic Council." "Nothing more, nothing less." Commander Jackson studied the tactical display. "Captain, I count 43 military vessels in the area. Most of them are smaller than our escort shuttles. Any of them could pose a threat?" "Negative. Our point defense systems could handle their entire combined fleet without raising main shields." Sarah nodded. This was going exactly as Admiral Morrison had predicted. The galaxy's military forces were impressive by their standards. But humanity had been building for war ever since their first brutal contact with hostile aliens 50 years ago. The Prometheus represented the culmination of human military engineering, designed specifically to ensure that humanity would never again face an enemy they couldn't defeat. In the Nexus Station Command Center, Speaker Vexthon materialized via hologram, his forearms gesturing frantically. "Commander Thrixavel, what is the meaning of this? I ordered the humans to send a single shuttle. They claim this is their shuttle, Speaker. The ship is broadcasting standard diplomatic codes and requesting normal docking procedures." Vexathon's large black eyes grew even larger. "That's a warship. It's bigger than anything in our combined fleets." "Yes, sir. The tactical analysis suggests it could destroy this entire station and every ship here without sustaining significant damage." On his flagship, Admiral Corkston was reaching the same conclusion. His senior officers had run every possible combat scenario, and they all ended the same way: complete annihilation of the galactic forces. "Admiral, we're receiving a message from the human ship," his communications officer announced. "Put it through." Captain Sarah Chen's image appeared on the screen. She was a middle-aged human with short dark hair and calm eyes. She wore a simple blue uniform with minimal decorations. "Admiral Corkston, I am Captain Sarah Chen of the UES Prometheus. I understand there's some confusion about our arrival. I want to assure you that we're here for peaceful diplomatic negotiations only. We have no hostile intentions toward Nexus Station or any vessels in the area." Corkston found his voice. "Captain Chen, your vessel appears to be a military dreadnought, not a diplomatic shuttle." Sarah looked genuinely puzzled. "I'm sorry for any confusion, Admiral. The Prometheus is our standard diplomatic escort vessel. We use it to ensure the safety of our ambassadors during interstellar travel." "Standard diplomatic escort?" Corkston's voice cracked. "Captain, your ship's firepower exceeds anything in the known galaxy. I appreciate your concern, Admiral, but I assure you the Prometheus is strictly defensive in nature. We're simply here to talk." After the transmission ended, Corkston sat in stunned silence. If this was their standard diplomatic vessel, what did their actual warships look like? The answer to that question was currently classified at the highest levels of human military command. The Prometheus was indeed a diplomatic escort, but it was also humanity's first public display of their true capabilities. Hidden in star systems throughout the galaxy, other human ships waited and watched. As the Prometheus moved slowly toward Nexus Station's diplomatic docking bay, sensors throughout the sector recorded every detail of its passage. The ship's shields alone generated more power than most planetary defense grids. Its weapons remained powered down, but even in standby mode they radiated energy signatures that made military analysts across the galaxy revise their threat assessments. In the diplomatic quarters of Nexus Station, Ambassador Elena Vasquez received confirmation that her ride had arrived. She had no idea that her transportation had just become the most feared and analyzed ship in galactic history. "Captain, we're cleared for docking," Torres reported. "They've assigned us Bay 94, which appears to be their largest diplomatic berth." "It's probably the only one big enough," Jackson muttered. Sarah smiled. "Take us in, Navigator. Nice and slow. Let them get a good look at us." As the Prometheus settled into the docking bay, its massive bulk dwarfing everything around it, the galaxy held its breath. First contact was supposed to be simple. A small ship, basic technology, primitive species grateful for the chance to join galactic civilization. Instead, they had just welcomed what appeared to be the most powerful warship in known space, operated by a species that seemed to consider it routine transportation. The age of human secrecy was over. The age of galactic assumptions about primitive species had just ended with it. Ambassador Elena Vasquez stepped out of the small shuttle pod that had emerged from the UES Prometheus, carrying only a simple briefcase and wearing a standard diplomatic uniform. She was a woman in her 50s with graying hair and kind eyes, looking exactly like what she was, a career diplomat who had spent decades negotiating trade agreements and territorial disputes. The docking bay fell silent as she walked calmly toward the reception area. Behind her, the massive bulk of the Prometheus loomed like a metal mountain, its weapons arrays clearly visible through the transparent aluminum walls of the bay. "Welcome to Nexus Station," stammered Station Commander Thrixval, trying to maintain some semblance of normal diplomatic protocol despite the circumstances. "I am Commander Thrixval. We were expecting a smaller vessel." Elena smiled pleasantly. "Thank you for the warm welcome, Commander. I apologize if our arrival caused any confusion. I'm Ambassador Elena Vasquez, representing the United Earth government in these preliminary negotiations." "Your ship," Thrixval began, then stopped, unsure how to continue. "The Prometheus? Yes, she's a beautiful vessel, isn't she? Captain Chen and her crew have taken excellent care of me during the journey. I always feel safe traveling with a proper escort." The word escort hit the assembled aliens like a physical blow. If this massive warship was just an escort, what did human military vessels look like? General Krexter of the Krax hegemony pushed forward, his scarred face twisted with suspicion. The Krax were a warrior species, and Krextor had spent his life studying military technology. What he saw in the docking bay challenged everything he thought he knew about galactic power. "Human," he growled. "Explain why you brought a warship to peaceful negotiations." Elena looked confused. "A warship? Oh, I think there's been a misunderstanding, General. The Prometheus isn't a warship. It's a diplomatic vessel designed to protect ambassadors during interstellar travel. Earth takes the safety of its diplomatic staff very seriously. That ship could destroy this entire station." Krexter snarled. "I certainly hope not," Elena replied calmly. "That would be terribly impolite. We're here to discuss trade agreements, not to threaten anyone." Dr. Velzera of the Etherian Collective, a peaceful species known for their scientific achievements, approached with her customary grace. Her translucent blue skin showed the patterns of deep concern. "Ambassador Vasquez, our sensors indicate your vessel possesses technology beyond our current understanding. The energy output alone suggests capabilities that shouldn't be possible with known physics." Elena brightened. "Oh, you're interested in our technology? I'm sure our scientists would love to discuss physics with you. Humans are always eager to learn from other species. In fact, we've been studying galactic technology for quite some time." "Studying our technology?" Speaker Vexton had arrived, his forearms gesturing nervously. "When, how?" "Well, we've been observing galactic civilization for about 50 years now," Elena explained matter-of-factly. "We prefer to learn about other species before making formal contact. It's only polite to understand local customs and capabilities before introducing ourselves." The implications of this statement sent shockwaves through the assembled diplomats. Humanity had been watching them for decades without being detected. Every private communication, every military exercise, every technological development had potentially been observed by these humans. Admiral Corkston, who had arrived with a full honor guard, stepped forward carefully. "Ambassador, when you say observing, what exactly do you mean?" "Standard diplomatic intelligence gathering, Admiral. We wanted to understand galactic politics, technology levels, cultural norms, that sort of thing. We certainly didn't want to make any embarrassing mistakes during first contact." "How many observation missions?" Corkston asked quietly. Elena consulted a small device. Oh, I'd estimate several hundred over the past 5 decades. We've had ships in most major systems at one time or another, always disguised as cargo vessels or independent traders, of course. We didn't want to alarm anyone. The silence that followed was deafening. Hundreds of missions, decades of observation. The humans had been moving freely through galactic space while every major power believed them to be a primitive species confined to their home system. General Krextor's face had turned an alarming shade of purple. You've been spying on us for 50 years? Spying is such an unpleasant word, Elena replied diplomatically. We prefer cultural observation. We've been very careful not to interfere with any internal affairs. We're simply scientists and diplomats trying to understand our galactic neighbors. What did you learn? Dr. Velsera asked, her scientific curiosity overcoming her political concerns. Elena smiled. That you're all quite remarkable species with rich cultures and impressive achievements. We're very much looking forward to establishing formal relationships with everyone. But your ship? Thrixval gestured helplessly at the Prometheus. What about it? It's more powerful than anything in our combined fleets. Elena looked genuinely surprised. Really, I had no idea. I'm not a military expert, Commander. To me, the Prometheus is just a comfortable way to travel between star systems. The crew is very professional and the quarters are quite nice. The assembled aliens exchanged glances. Either this human woman was the most skilled liar in galactic history, or she genuinely didn't understand the implications of what she'd just revealed. Ambassador, Admiral Corks then said carefully, when you say the Prometheus is a diplomatic vessel, does that mean you have other types of ships? Oh yes, of course. The Earth Navy has exploration vessels, cargo ships, research vessels, colony ships, and various military classes. The Prometheus is classified as a diplomatic escort cruiser, I believe. Military classes. General Krextor leaned forward intently. Well, yes. After our first contact experiences 50 years ago, Earth decided it was important to maintain adequate defenses. You never know when you might encounter hostile species. First contact experiences? Speaker Vexthon's voice was barely a whisper. Elena's expression grew somber. The Devourers found Earth in 2157. Lovely species in their way. Unfortunately, they considered humans a food source. We had quite a difficult time convincing them otherwise. The blood drained from every alien face in the room. The Devourers were a legend, a nightmare species that had vanished from the galaxy decades ago after destroying several systems. Most species believed they were extinct. You fought the Devourers? Dr. Velsera asked in amazement. For about 3 years. Nasty business, really? They had impressive technology, but they underestimated human determination. After we convinced them to leave our territory alone, we decided it would be wise to prepare for similar encounters. What happened to them? Admiral Corks then asked, though he was beginning to suspect the answer. Elena's smile was pleasant and terrifying. They learned to find food sources that don't shoot back. I believe they relocated to another galaxy entirely. Humans can be quite persuasive when properly motivated. The implications hung in the air like a toxic cloud. Humanity had not only survived contact with the most feared species in galactic history, they had driven them away. And everything they'd built since then was designed to ensure such threats never arose again. Now then, Elena continued brightly, shall we discuss these trade agreements? I understand you're interested in establishing preliminary commercial relationships with Earth. We have some very nice products that I think you'll find quite interesting. As the stunned diplomats tried to process what they'd learned, one thing became crystal clear. The galaxy's understanding of power, technology, and territorial boundaries was about to undergo a dramatic revision, and the humans seemed to think this was all perfectly normal. The real negotiations were about to begin, but the balance of power had already shifted completely. General Krextor had heard enough. 3 hours of listening to the human ambassador casually describe decades of galactic observation, and the destruction of the Devourers had pushed him beyond his tolerance for uncertainty. The Krax hegemony had built their reputation on military strength, and no species challenged that strength without consequences. This is intolerable, he growled to his aide, a younger Krax warrior named Thekvar. These humans arrive with claims of superior technology, and expect us to simply accept their word. The hegemony does not bow to unproven threats. Thekvar glanced nervously at the docking bay where the Prometheus loomed. General, their ship appears formidable. Perhaps we should appear formidable? Crexter's eyes blazed with fury. Any species can build an impressive-looking hull and fill it with lights. What matters is whether they have the will to use their weapons and the skill to use them effectively. In the diplomatic conference room, Ambassador Vasquez was explaining Earth's agricultural exports when Crexator burst through the doors, his ceremonial battle armor clanking with each step. "Enough," he roared. "The Crack's hegemony demands proof of these claims. Your species speaks of military prowess while hiding behind diplomatic immunity. Prove your strength or be revealed as frauds." Elena looked up from her trade documents with mild surprise. "I'm sorry, General, but I'm not sure what you mean." "Proof of what claims? Your ship, your military, your supposed victory over the Devourers. The hegemony challenges you to demonstrate your capabilities." The other ambassadors shifted uncomfortably. Crack's challenges were serious matters in galactic politics. Species that refused them were considered weak and lost considerable standing in future negotiations. Elena blinked. "You want us to demonstrate our military capabilities? I'm not sure that's appropriate for a trade negotiation. The hegemony will deploy 3 battle cruisers for a combat exercise against your vessel. If you truly possess the technology you claim, you should have no difficulty with this simple test." Dr. Valsera spoke up urgently. "General, surely this is unnecessary. The humans have come in peace. Peace built on fear is no peace at all," Crexter declared. "Let them prove their strength or admit their weakness." Elena sighed and activated her communication device. "Captain Chen, we have a slight complication down here." On the Prometheus, Captain Sarah Chen listened to the ambassador's explanation with growing irritation. She had hoped to complete this first contact without any violence, but the Cracks were forcing her hand. "Ma'am, are you requesting military intervention?" Sarah asked carefully. "I'm afraid the General is quite insistent. He seems to believe we're bluffing about our capabilities." Sarah looked at her tactical display. 3 Cracks battle cruisers were already moving into position around Nexus Station, their weapons powering up. Each ship was roughly 400 meters long and heavily armed by galactic standards. "Understood, Ambassador. Please inform the General that we accept his challenge. However, I want to make it clear that this is a demonstration only. We have no desire to harm anyone." "Of course, Captain. Try to keep the damage minimal." In the conference room, Elena turned back to General Crextor. "Captain Chen accepts your challenge, General. However, she wants to emphasize that this is purely a demonstration. She hopes no one will be seriously hurt." Crextor's scarred face twisted into a predatory grin. "Tell your captain that the hegemony does not require mercy from inferior species." The observation deck of Nexus Station filled quickly as word of the challenge spread. Representatives from dozens of species gathered to watch what many assumed would be the destruction of human pretensions. The massive viewing screens showed the 3 Cracks vessels moving into attack formation while the Prometheus remained motionless in its docking berth. Admiral Corkston studied the tactical situation with professional interest. The Crack ships were among the most advanced in the galaxy, each equipped with fusion cannons, quantum torpedoes, and advanced shielding systems. Against any normal opponent, 3 such vessels would be overwhelming force. "Admiral," his aide whispered, "the human ship hasn't even raised shields." "I noticed that," Corkston replied grimly. Either the humans were incredibly confident, or they were about to be destroyed in the most one-sided battle in galactic history. General Crexter's voice boomed across the communications channel. "Human vessel, you have 60 seconds to surrender before we demonstrate the futility of challenging the hegemony." Captain Chen's calm response came immediately. "General, I urge you to reconsider this course of action. This demonstration is unnecessary and potentially dangerous." 40 seconds. On the Prometheus, Sarah turned to her weapons officer, Lieutenant Commander Park. "Status report? All point defense systems online and ready, Captain. Main batteries remain powered down as ordered. Rules of engagement: disable enemy vessels with minimal damage. No lethal force unless absolutely necessary. 20 seconds, Crextor announced triumphantly. Sarah settled into her command chair. "All right, people. Let's give them their demonstration. Park, target their weapon systems only. I want them alive to tell others what they saw here today." The Cracks attack began with a coordinated barrage of fusion cannon fire from all 3 ships. The brilliant energy beams struck the Prometheus's hull directly, lighting up the docking bay with intense radiation. When the light faded, The Prometheus sat unchanged. Its hull showed no damage, no scoring, no indication that it had just absorbed enough firepower to level a city. Impossible, breathed Admiral Corkston. Those cannons should have penetrated any known shielding. On the Prometheus, Lieutenant Torres checked his readings. Captain, hull temperature increased by 0.003 degrees. No damage to any systems. Thank you, Torres. Park, return fire. Point defense only. What happened next redefined the observer's understanding of weapons technology. The Prometheus didn't use its massive main cannons or its torpedo tubes. Instead, small turrets designed to intercept incoming missiles swiveled toward the Crack's vessels. The weapons that fired were intended to stop projectiles no larger than a man's fist. Against capital ships, they should have been utterly ineffective. Instead, precise beams of coherent energy struck each Crack's vessel with surgical accuracy. The first ship, the Hegemony's Pride, lost all forward weapons in a matter of seconds. The beams sliced through armor plating like it was paper, disabling gun turrets without damaging critical life support systems. The second ship suffered a complete power failure, as the mysterious human weapons targeted its reactor containment systems with impossible precision. Emergency lighting flickered on as the crew scrambled to prevent a core breach. The third ship simply stopped moving as its engines were systematically disabled. The captain tried desperately to maneuver, but every thruster port had been melted shut by the incredibly accurate fire. The entire engagement lasted less than 30 seconds. In the observation deck, silence reigned. The most feared military force in the local sector had just been casually dismantled by weapons the humans considered defensive systems. Captain Chen's voice cut through the stunned quiet. General Krextor, this concludes our demonstration. Medical teams are standing by to assist with any injuries aboard your vessels. I trust this settles the question of our capabilities. General Krextor stared at his disabled fleet in shock. His most advanced warships had been reduced to floating debris, without the human vessel even using its primary weapons. The implications were staggering. How? He whispered. Superior targeting systems, advanced materials science, and 50 years of preparation, Sarah replied matter-of-factly. We learned from the Devourers that half measures in military technology lead to extinction. We chose to err on the side of caution. Elena's voice came over the communication system. Now then, shall we return to our trade discussions? I believe we were talking about agricultural exports. As rescue ships moved to assist the disabled Crack's vessels, the assembled diplomats tried to process what they had witnessed. The humans had just demonstrated technology that made the galaxy's most advanced weapons look primitive, and they had done it with obvious restraint and precision. The age of galactic military balance was over. In its place stood a single, unavoidable truth. Humanity possessed power beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen, and they were offering to share their agricultural products instead of demanding subjugation. The real question now was what humanity planned to do with their overwhelming advantage, and whether the galaxy was prepared for the answer. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened 6 hours after the incident at Nexus Station. Representatives from 47 species gathered in the Great Chamber on Centralis Prime, their faces showing expressions ranging from terror to fascination to desperate calculation. Speaker Vexthon called the session to order, his forearms trembling slightly as he consulted the reports that had been flooding in from intelligence agencies across the galaxy. Fellow beings, he began, his voice carrying across the vast chamber, we face a situation unprecedented in galactic history. The species known as humans has revealed capabilities that fundamentally alter the balance of power in our civilization. The chamber erupted in concerned murmurs. In the 6 hours since the demonstration at Nexus Station, every major intelligence service had been working frantically to reassess everything they thought they knew about the Sol system and its inhabitants. Director Zixtal of Galactic Intelligence stepped forward, her tentacles writhing with nervous energy. Council members, our preliminary analysis is undisturbing. For 50 years, human vessels have been present in our space. We initially dismissed them as independent traders or explorers from a developing species. She activated a holographic display showing ship movement patterns across the galaxy. Red dots appeared throughout known space, each representing a confirmed or suspected human presence. We now know these were sophisticated intelligence-gathering operations. The humans have been observing our military exercises, our trade routes, our diplomatic negotiations, and our technological developments for 5 decades. Admiral Korksthan, attending via hologram from Nexus Station, added his assessment. Council members, I witnessed their demonstration firsthand. The human vessel disabled 3 of our most advanced warships using only point defense systems. Their main weapons remained powered down throughout the entire engagement. The implication sent a chill through the assembly. If their point defense systems could destroy capital ships, what could their primary weapons accomplish? How many ships do they have? Asked Councillor Threx of the Zephyrian Alliance. Director Zixtal consulted her reports grimly. Conservative estimates suggest at least 100 vessels comparable to or larger than the Prometheus. However, these estimates are based on incomplete data. The true number could be significantly higher. 100 ships like that? Whispered Representative Krellnon of the Traitor Coalition. They could conquer the entire galaxy. Which brings us to the critical question. Speaker Vexthan interjected. What do they want? The answer came from an unexpected source. Ambassador Elena Vasquez had requested permission to address the council, and her small shuttle had been granted immediate passage to Centralis Prime. Now she stood at the speaker's podium, looking remarkably calm for someone whose species had just shocked the galaxy. Honored council members, Elena began with a respectful bow. I understand there's been considerable concern about recent events. I'm here to clarify humanity's intentions and hopefully address your worries. Speaker Vexton leaned forward. Ambassador, your species has revealed military capabilities that exceed our combined fleets. Your intentions are of paramount importance to every being in this chamber. Elena smiled warmly. Our intentions are exactly what we stated from the beginning. Peaceful trade and cultural exchange. Earth has no desire to conquer, subjugate, or control other species. We simply want to be good neighbors. Good neighbors who could destroy us all, muttered General Krextor, who was attending despite his recent humiliation. General, we could have destroyed you at any point during the last 50 years if that was our goal. Elena replied patiently. Instead, we chose to observe, learn, and prepare for peaceful contact. Doesn't that suggest something about our character? Dr. Velzara of the Etherian Collective spoke up. Ambassador, your technology appears to be centuries beyond our current capabilities. How did your species achieve such rapid advancement? Elena's expression grew serious. Necessity, Dr. Velzara. When the Devourers attacked Earth, we faced a simple choice. Advance rapidly or become extinct. We chose advancement. You mentioned driving away the Devourers, Director Zixtal said carefully. Our records suggest they were the most dangerous species ever encountered in this galaxy. They were dangerous, Elena agreed. But they made the mistake of underestimating human determination and adaptability. After 3 years of warfare, we convinced them that easier prey existed elsewhere. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The Devourers had destroyed entire star systems before vanishing from the galaxy. Now they knew why they had vanished. What happened to them? Asked Admiral Korksthan. They relocated to another galaxy entirely. We provided them with star charts and enough fuel to reach Andromeda. In exchange, they agreed to leave this galaxy permanently. Councillor Threx stared at her in amazement. You gave them star charts to another galaxy? It seemed like the most civilized solution. They needed food sources, and we needed them to stop trying to eat us. Everyone won. The casual way she described forcibly relocating one of the most feared species in galactic history left the council speechless. Speaker Vexthan found his voice first. Ambassador, given your species' capabilities, what role do you envision humanity playing in galactic civilization? Elena considered the question carefully. We'd like to be contributing members of the galactic community. We have technologies and resources that could benefit everyone, and we're eager to learn from other species' knowledge and cultures. Technologies like what? Dr. Velzara asked, her scientific curiosity overcoming her political concerns. Medical advances, agricultural techniques, manufacturing processes, energy generation systems. Elena paused. We've also developed some interesting solutions to common problems like asteroid mining, planetary defense, and space-time manipulation. Space-time manipulation? The words escaped from several council members simultaneously. Oh yes, we've made some breakthroughs in temporal mechanics and dimensional physics, very useful for long-distance travel and resource extraction. We'd be happy to share the basics with interested parties. Director Zixtal leaned forward intently. Ambassador, what would humanity require in exchange for such technology sharing? Elena's answer was simple and devastating. Friendship. The silence stretched for long minutes as the council tried to process this response. The most powerful species in galactic history wanted nothing more than friendship and fair treatment. That's all? Asked Speaker Vexthan. Well, we'd appreciate being included in existing trade networks and cultural exchanges. Earth produces some excellent coffee, wine, and chocolate that we think other species might enjoy. And our scientists are very interested in xenobiology and comparative philosophy. General Krextor, still nursing his wounded pride, spoke up harshly. What guarantee do we have that humanity won't change its mind? What stops you from conquering us tomorrow? Elena's response was gentle but chilling. General, what would stop any species from turning aggressive? The same thing that stops you from attacking peaceful neighbors, enlightened self-interest and basic decency. The difference is that if humanity ever did turn hostile, you couldn't stop us. The brutal honesty of that statement hit the chamber like a physical blow. She was right, and everyone knew it. However, Elena continued, I'd like to point out that we've had the capability to conquer this galaxy for decades, and instead we chose to prepare for peaceful contact. That should tell you something about human nature. Speaker Vex then called for a recess to allow the council members to digest what they'd learned. As the chamber emptied, small groups formed to discuss the new reality they faced. The mathematics were simple and terrifying. Humanity possessed overwhelming military superiority, advanced technology beyond galactic comprehension, and strategic patience that had allowed them to observe and prepare for 50 years. But instead of conquest, they offered friendship. Instead of demands, they made requests. Instead of subjugation, they sought cooperation. When the session reconvened, the vote was unanimous. Humanity would be welcomed as a full member of galactic civilization with all the rights and privileges thereof. Trade agreements would be negotiated immediately, and cultural exchange programs would begin within the year. As Elena prepared to return to Earth with news of humanity's acceptance, she reflected on how smoothly everything had proceeded. Admiral Morrison's strategy had worked perfectly. Reveal enough strength to command respect, demonstrate enough restraint to avoid fear, and offer enough benefits to make friendship attractive. The galaxy would never be the same, but perhaps that was for the best. As Elena had learned during her diplomatic career, sometimes the greatest changes came from the most unexpected places, and sometimes the arrival of a single ship could change the course of history. 3 months later, human agricultural products were revolutionizing galactic cuisine. Human medical technology was saving lives across dozens of worlds, and human exploration vessels were making contact with previously unknown species throughout the galaxy. Each new contact followed the same pattern. The aliens expected a small scout ship from a developing species. Instead, they encountered vessels that redefined their understanding of what was possible.